In the last episode, the Reapers captured Daryl and brought him back to base camp. They were trying to get information out of him about where Maggie and the others came from. Leah walked up to Daryl and removed the hood, and they shared an awkward glance. Considering they had been a loving couple 3 years ago, Daryl apologized, saying, "I went back to find you, but you were gone. I'm sorry to have let you get mixed up with these people." However, Leah retorted, "There's no need to apologize. These people found and accepted me. They're my family now." Hearing this, Daryl understood that they could never go back to how things were. Leah still held some affection for their past, which is why she wanted to talk to Daryl alone, hoping to gather information in a gentler way. But there was no way Daryl would betray Alexandria's safe zone, so he lied and said, "The family I told you about fought a war against a group called the Whisperers a long time ago, and they were all wiped out. I'm just wandering around on my own now." Leah was quiet about the answer and wondered if she believed it.
You're filthy.
Later, Leah brought a damp cloth and gently wiped Daryl's face, as if their relationship had regressed to 3 years ago. But then, by the time Daryl was conscious again, cold water was pouring in through his mouth and nose. The Reaper on the right, named Brandon, held a strong grudge against Daryl because he liked Leah.
Again! The others. Are they still out there?
I don't know.
Who's the leader? Is it the woman?
I ain't one of them.
Since he didn't believe Daryl's answer, they resorted to more torture. This time, the torture lasted a long while, and Leah began to feel uneasy.
I said stop. I'll handle it. I said up.
Brandon was not convinced, but he did what he was told. After all, Leah was second only to the boss. Leah removed the hood from Daryl's head and said sternly, "I need you to cooperate and tell us everything you know. Our leader won't be as lenient." Leah's words carried a threat, but it was also an attempt to get Daryl to cooperate and suffer less. After some contemplation, Daryl responded, "I encountered those people on the road, made a trade with them for some food and supplies. I've known them for less than a week." Leah shook her head, clearly not buying into the story at all.
Go ahead, kill me if you want. I got nothing else to say.
Following that, Daryl was locked in a cell, and it was unrealistic to escape with armed guards patrolling nearby. At this moment, a cough came from the cage across from Daryl. To his surprise, it was one of his former squad members, the one who often accused Negan. Daryl quickly turned away, not wanting this guy to recognize him. He was worried that talking to him might reveal something. But, as fate would have it, the worst-case scenario unfolded.
Daryl, is that you? The others, are they okay?
I don't know where your friends are. Understand? I want no part of it. Leave me alone. Got it?
The man first appeared confused but then understood Daryl's intentions. There must be someone outside listening to their conversation. He nodded his head in cooperation. However, just as they finished their conversation, 2 members of the Reapers entered, intending to take the man from the opposite cage away. 5 minutes later, Leah arrived at the cell door. She criticized Daryl for being as stubborn as ever and not willing to tell the truth. But Daryl replied,
I've never lied to you. Never, Leah.
The look on his face is as sincere as it gets. It's true that men are all born liars. Upon hearing that, Leah was also somewhat moved. Nonetheless, she persisted and asked again, "How much do you really know about those people?" Daryl remained steadfast, claiming he knew nothing. He added, "If I can help you in any way, I'm willing to do it. You know me. Give me the dog and let me leave this place. I promise you won't see me again." While they were conversing, the 2 Reapers returned with the man they had taken away, indicating that they hadn't had a chance to interrogate him. Leah expressed her confusion and asked what had happened.
Found Bossy.
And Turner?
They proceeded to the leader's room, and upon entering, they heard cries of grief. They went straight to the house. Leah pulled back the curtain and there stood their leader, while seated was their returning comrade in arms, Bossy. Bossy was the Reaper who had been hit by Maggie's throwing knife. Inside the room, a priest was praying for the deceased. The dead man was also killed by Maggie and Negan. and his body was carried back by Bossy. This Reaper organization not only possessed formidable combat skills but also shared a deep bond of friendship among its members. Leah looked at her dead family with a look of sadness on her face. At that moment a slim figure stepped out. With his elegant demeanor and gold glasses, who would have thought he was the boss of the Reapers? His subordinates referred to him as Pope. Pope was furious. The pursuit of Maggie's team had resulted in heavy losses this time, except for Bossy, who brought back the body of one of his mates. There's still one unaccounted for, the one Gabriel killed. So Pope is furious, and he's going to make these people pay, especially Maggie. Meanwhile, in the cell, Daryl was attempting to break free from his bindings. Just then, Leah returned to the cell, and Daryl quickly noticed that she seemed sad. He couldn't help but inquire about what had happened. Leah, with sadness in her voice, replied, "One of our brothers has died." She then began to talk about the pre-apocalyptic times. These Reapers had once been Special Forces soldiers, but after retiring, they became mercenaries. They had fought in various parts of the world and had formed deep bonds of brotherhood among themselves. A few years ago, Pope had found them and established the current organization. Talking and talking, they brought up the time when they were in love, which was a good memory. Leah adjusted her emotions and continued, "I can help you because no matter what, I still care about you. I don't want anything bad to happen to you, but you need to tell me some information. Anything you can. I can try to convince Pope to let you join us. Otherwise, death awaits you." After some contemplation, Daryl decided to reveal some information. He said, "The woman you mentioned is the leader because I'm an outsider. They usually communicate using codes. In the team, there's a tall, skinny guy who never stops talking, and there's also a priest carrying a shotgun. These three are the leadership. Their purpose on this mission is to rendezvous with a larger force, probably consisting of over 30 warriors. More than your people, that's all I know." Armed with this information, Leah stood up, preparing to go to Pope and secure Daryl's release. Later, she went to Pope's room and discussed the idea of bringing Daryl on board. The reasoning is that they need more men now, and Daryl fits perfectly with the idea of the Reapers who never shies away from danger and isn't afraid to die. Initially, Pope was hesitant, but Leah and Pope shared a unique bond, sometimes resembling that of a father and daughter. Furthermore, Leah assured Pope that Daryl would not disappoint. Pope finally relented but insisted on meeting Daryl in person. A while later, Daryl was once again brought to a container, waiting for Pope to arrive. Leah instructed the others to leave and then proceeded to untie Daryl. Suddenly, they heard a loud noise at the door. Leah sensed that something was amiss and tried to open the door, but it had been locked from the outside. As Leah struggled to understand the situation, liquid began to seep in under the door, and the scent in the air suggested it was gasoline. The lights inside the room went out, and a trail of fire started spreading from the doorway. Pope was attempting to burn them alive. Daryl sprang into action, trying to remove the wooden boards from the window, but they were securely nailed in place and proved difficult to remove. Leah, on the other hand, tried smashing the window with a chair, but her efforts were in vain, and the thick smoke began to affect her ability to move. Daryl decided to dismantle the metal pipe support near the wall to use as a tool. However, the pipe was scalding hot from the fire. Leah pointed out that the pipe support had iron bars, which could be used as a tool. With this newfound tool, they managed to break open the window quickly. Daryl smashed the glass with his hand and then pulled Leah out through the window before leaping out himself. They gasped for fresh air, narrowly escaping the life-threatening blaze. Leah lifted her head and realized that their fellow Reapers were watching them. She couldn't help but understand that Pope had put Daryl to the test with her life. Leah wasn't angry. Instead, she walked over to join her comrades. Daryl faced them without fear, as he had never been one to back down.
Forged by fire. Ordained by God. Welcome him!
In this way, Daryl successfully passed the test and was accepted into the Reapers. Daryl was then called into a room alone by Pope to ask questions. Pope may have had a friendly appearance, but he saw himself as a godlike figure, and judging by the fact that he's prepared to sacrifice Leah to the test, there's just something sinister and scary about this guy. During the questioning, Daryl didn't adopt a submissive attitude. Instead, he remained defiant, not hiding his rebellious nature. Daryl understood that if he simply flattered Pope, he would meet a quick demise. Once the questioning was over, Pope invited Daryl to dine with him. After the test and conversation, Pope felt that Daryl was a good fit for the Reapers. He instructed his followers to treat Daryl as one of their own. Pope went on to introduce Daryl to Bossy. Speaking highly of him, Pope mentioned how Bossy had walked 16 kilometers back home, carrying a fallen comrade while injured. Pope admired him for this and expressed his gratitude. Bossy modestly downplayed his actions, saying he had only done what anyone else would have done. Pope nodded and then signaled for Bossy to turn around, asking if his back wound still hurt.
You made anything?
I just have one question.
Sure.
Something's been bothering me.
Where were you when Turner was being attacked?
I was right there, just like I told you.
Facing the enemy.
Yeah.
He's been through enough.
The implication behind Pope's question was clear. He didn't trust his men's words and believed that Bossy had abandoned his comrades during the battle, as fleeing was a natural human instinct. Bossy is freaking out. This sudden turn of events startled everyone, and Bossy was pinned down in the fire pit, burning alive. This incident served as a warning for Daryl to never display any suspicious behavior, otherwise, death would await him. It was clear that this old man was incredibly paranoid.